Talking about bride kidnapping. Yeah, you heard that right. The practice of literally abducting women to force them into marriage. It's a custom that's been going on for centuries in some parts of the world, and let me tell you, it's as horrifying as it sounds. Picture this. You're a young woman, maybe 16 or 17 years old, just minding your own business, walking home from school or the market. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a group of men grabs you, throws you into a car, and speeds off. Your heart's racing, you're screaming, but no one can hear you. You have no idea where you're going or what's going to happen to you. This, my friends, is the terrifying reality for thousands of women around the globe. Now you might be thinking, no way, this can't be real. This kind of thing doesn't happen anymore. But oh boy, you'd be dead wrong. In countries like Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, and parts of the Caucasus, bride kidnapping is still practiced today. Yeah, you heard me right. In the 21st century, women are still being snatched off the streets and forced into marriage against their will. Let's zoom in on Kyrgyzstan for a sec. This Central Asian country, nestled between China and Kazakhstan, has a long and dark history with bride kidnapping. It's called kachuu in Kyrgyz, which literally means grab and run. Catchy, huh? Well, it's anything but a laughing matter. According to a 2017 UNICEF report, get this, nearly 12% of girls under the age of 18 in Kyrgyzstan are married through some form of coercion. That's more than 1 in 10 young women, folks. And here's the kicker. A staggering 20% of marriages in the country are believed to result from bride kidnapping. Let that sink in for a moment. 1 in 5 marriages. It's enough to make your blood run cold. But hold on to your hats, 'cause we're just getting started. The process of bride kidnapping is like something out of a nightmare. Once a woman is abducted, she's taken to the home of her kidnapper. And this is where things get really twisted. The kidnapper's female relatives then try to physically restrain the woman and cover her head with a white scarf, symbolizing her submission. It's like something out of a horror movie, but it's all too real. Now you might be wondering, why don't these women just escape? Why don't they fight back? Well, my friends, it's not that simple. In many cases, the women are subjected to intense psychological pressure and even physical violence. They're told that if they refuse to marry their kidnapper, they'll bring shame on their families. In some communities, a kidnapped bride who manages to escape is considered tainted and may struggle to find a husband in the future. It's a lose-lose situation that leaves women feeling trapped and helpless. But wait, there's more. In some cases, the kidnapped bride is raped by her abductor. This horrific act is seen as a way to seal the deal and make it impossible for the woman to return to her family. It's a tactic so vile, so despicable, that it's hard to even comprehend. Yet it happens, and it happens far too often. Now, let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Bride kidnapping isn't just a Kyrgyz problem. Oh no, this barbaric practice has roots that stretch across continents and cultures. In fact, it's been around for thousands of years. Ancient Rome? Yep, they did it. The Hmong people of Southeast Asia? They've got a history of it too. Even in some Native American tribes, bride capture was once a thing. But here's where it gets really interesting. And by interesting, I mean absolutely mind-boggling. In some cultures, bride kidnapping has evolved into a kind of ritualized performance. Take Ethiopia's Latuka tribe, for example. In their tradition, if a man wants to marry a woman, he kidnaps her. But here's the twist. The girl's family then beats the guy up. If he can take the beating and still wants to marry the girl, he's considered worthy. Talk about tough love, huh? Now I know what you're thinking. Surely this can't be legal, right? Well, hold on to your seats, 'cause I've got news for you. In many countries where bride kidnapping occurs, it's technically illegal. Kyrgyzstan, for instance, criminalized the practice in 2013. Sounds great, right? Well, not so fast. Despite the law, prosecutions are rare, and the practice continues largely unchecked. It's like trying to stop a freight train with a feather. Pretty darn ineffective. But why, you ask? Why does this horrific practice persist in the face of laws and international condemnation? Well, buckle up, 'cause we're about to go deep. It's a toxic cocktail of poverty, tradition, and good old-fashioned misogyny. In many communities where bride kidnapping is prevalent, it's seen as a way for poor young men to marry when they can't afford the traditional bride price. It's economics, baby. Twisted, horrifying economics. And then there's the weight of tradition. In some places, bride kidnapping is so ingrained in the culture that it's seen as romantic. Can you believe that? Romantic. As if being abducted and forced into marriage is some kind of fairy tale ending. But let's not forget the role of good old patriarchy in all this. In many of these societies, women are seen as property, as things to be owned and controlled. Bride kidnapping is just another way for men to assert their dominance and control over women's lives and bodies. It's enough to make your skin crawl. Now let's zoom in on a real-life case that'll make your heart break. In 2018, a young woman named Burulai Turdali Kizi was kidnapped by a man who wanted to force her into marriage. She was just 20 years old, with her whole life ahead of her. But instead of living out her dreams, she ended up dead in a police station, murdered by her kidnapper. Her crime? Refusing to marry him. It's a tragedy that shook Kyrgyzstan to its core and sparked protests across the country. But Burulai's story isn't unique. Oh no, it's just the tip of a very dark and dangerous iceberg. Women who resist bride kidnapping often face violence, ostracism, and even death. It's a nightmare scenario that plays out again and again, leaving a trail of broken lives in its wake. Now I know what you're thinking. This is horrible. Somebody must be doing something about this. And you'd be right. There are brave activists and organizations fighting against bride kidnapping every single day. They're working to change laws, educate communities, and provide support to victims. But it's an uphill battle, folks. A real David and Goliath situation. Take the case of Kyrgyz filmmaker Elnura Osmanalieva. She made a documentary called Bride Kidnapping that exposed the practice to the world. It was a gutsy move in a country where speaking out against tradition can be dangerous. But Elnura didn't care. She wanted to shine a light on this dark corner of her culture, to make people see the horror and pain behind the so-called tradition. And then there's the Keys Korgan Institute, a non-governmental organization in Kyrgyzstan that works to combat bride kidnapping. These folks are on the front lines, providing shelter and support to women who've escaped forced marriages. They're the unsung heroes in this fight, putting their lives on the line to protect vulnerable women. But let's not kid ourselves. Change is slow. Painfully, agonizingly slow. It's like trying to turn an ocean liner with a paddle. But every small victory, every woman saved, every mind changed, is a step in the right direction. Now, let's take a moment to consider the psychological impact of bride kidnapping. Imagine being ripped away from everything you know, forced into a life you didn't choose, with a man you don't love. The trauma is unimaginable. Many women who've been through this experience suffer from depression, anxiety, and PTSD. Some even turn to suicide as a way out. It's a mental health crisis hidden behind closed doors and cultural silence. And let's not forget about the children born from these forced unions. Growing up in a household where your mother was essentially enslaved, that's going to leave some scars, folks. It's a cycle of trauma that ripples through generations, poisoning families and communities. But here's where things get really twisted. In some cases, women who've been kidnapped end up staying with their abductors. Stockholm Syndrome? Maybe. But it's also about survival. In societies where divorced or single women are stigmatized, staying with a kidnapper might seem like the lesser evil. It's a choice between bad and worse, a Sophie's choice that no woman should ever have to make. Now, let's talk about the international response to all this. The United Nations has condemned bride kidnapping as a human rights violation. Various NGOs and human rights organizations have called for an end to the practice. But when it comes to actually stopping it, well, that's where things get sticky. Cultural relativism rears its ugly head, with some arguing that outsiders shouldn't interfere with traditional practices. It's a debate that rages on, while women continue to suffer. But here's the thing, folks. Tradition isn't always right. Just because something's been done for a long time doesn't make it okay. We used to think slavery was traditional. We used to think denying women the vote was traditional. Sometimes traditions need to be challenged, need to be changed. And bride kidnapping? It's long past time for this tradition to die. So where do we go from here? How do we fight against something so deeply ingrained in certain cultures? Education is key, my friends. Teaching young people about consent, about women's rights, about the value of love and mutual respect in marriage. It's not a quick fix, but it's a start. And then there's the law. Countries need to not just pass laws against bride kidnapping, but actually enforce them. No more slaps on the wrist. No more turning a blind eye. Real consequences for real crimes. But perhaps most importantly, we need to listen to the voices of the women affected by this practice. Their stories, their pain, their resilience. These are the things that can change hearts and minds. It's easy for us to sit here and shake our heads at the horror of it all. But for the women living this reality every day, they're the real heroes in this story. So, as we wrap up this wild ride through the dark world of bride kidnapping, I want you to remember one thing. This isn't just some far-off problem happening to people we'll never meet. This is a human rights crisis happening right now, to real women with hopes and dreams just like you and me. It's happening in a world where we have smartphones and social media and space travel. It's happening, and it needs to stop. The next time you hear about bride kidnapping, don't just shake your head and move on. Get angry. Get involved. Spread awareness. Support organizations fighting against this practice. Because every woman deserves the right to choose her own path in life, to love who she wants to love, to be free from fear and violence. And to all the brave women out there fighting against bride kidnapping, standing up for their rights in the face of overwhelming odds, we see you, we hear you, and we stand with you. Your fight is our fight. Your pain is our pain. And your victory, when it comes, and it will come, will be a victory for all of us. So there you have it, folks. Bride kidnapping, a practice that belongs in the dustbin of history, not in our modern world. It's a reminder that the fight for women's rights is far from over, that there are still battles to be fought and won. But with education, with activism, with courage and determination, we can consign this barbaric practice to the history books where it belongs. The road ahead is long, but the destination, a world where every woman is free to choose her own destiny, is worth every step of the journey.